Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Channel Show. As you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, we're taking a look at my manga graphic novels, manhwa, and more. And all of these, I don't have all of them in like the original formatting, the original published formatting, but I've just included like the different terminologies because some of these series are also in a manhwa version or light novel version. So that's why I've included kind of just all the generic things that these series could fit under. And before I really get into my series, the series that I have specifically, I did want to give kind of like descriptions or like definitions for these because, you know, not everyone may know what these are. So, and I will go over, I don't, for these series, there are some where it's like they are specifically just manga or just manhwa, but for some of these that kind of like are intersectional where they have a manga version where it's like they were originally a manhwa, or whether it's like the Chinese, Taiwanese, or Hong Kongese Manhwa, Manhua, or the Korean spelling, the Mahwa. There are some where it's like they were originally manhwa and then they got a manga adaptation, and I have the manga adaptation, and I will point those ones out. I think it's only one that I have the manga adaptation for. And then there are some that were webcomics that got a published physical version. There's like 3 of those here, 4 of those here. What's underneath this? And then, so I will go over what I can. If you know specifically, if I don't get it like perfectly right with the descriptions of these, just let me know. But like I was saying, I will try to give my knowledge of which ones have multiple versions. Again, if you know a little bit more, comment down below. But like I was starting to say earlier, I am going to give like a couple of definitions just because not everyone might know what specific things are. And like, you know, I'm always learning, so it's like if you don't know some of these terms, that is perfectly okay. Like, we're all here to learn and just engage with reading and other forms of reading. All of these are considered reading. All of these are considered reading. It does not matter that they're in a graphic novel version or another version that's not a traditional Western novel. All of these are considered reading. So to get into the definitions, a graphic novel, I feel like that's kind of obvious. It's sort of like a comic. Graphic novel and comics are often interchangeably used, but graphic novel is a more broad term, while comic is a little bit more specific. A graphic novel, I'm not going to be talking about comics in this though. A graphic novel is a self-contained book-length form of sequential art, often applied broadly. The term is often applied broadly, and usually the sequential art is telling a story of some sort, which is why it's called a graphic novel. So the next term is manga. I feel like this one's a pretty well-known term, but I thought I'd throw it in here. Manga is a style of Japanese comic books and graphic novels typically aimed at adults as well as children. Now, there will be... Are there ratings? Yeah. Usually, I'm going to give this one as an example. Or I'm going to give like the top 3 that I have here as an example. So most manga have a rating. So you can see here, this one, I feel like you know which one this is. This one says teen, and then this one also says teen, and then this one, okay, here, it will be like various here. That's T for teen. And let's see, what do you have, my friend? Okay, here. It will come up as different ways. So this one's a little bit smaller, rated T for teen, 13 plus. And then this is going to be like the last one. Do graphic novels have that too? Yeah, so most graphic novels, manga, most of the ones you find will have some sort of rating here. And they're not always going to be at the bottom. Here, this one's at the top. T for teen. So most of them will have a rating. You just have to look around for it. So yeah. So they are aimed at everyone. You just have to look for the rating, because while manga is generally for everyone, specific genres, tropes, etc. are not always made for everyone, which is why they're rated. So the next term is Manhua, Manhua, and this is comics originating from China, Taiwan, or Hong Kong, encompassing a wide range of genres like fantasy, historical, romance, and action. And then you have the Korean spelling, Manhua. It's the Korean term for comics and print cartoons. And a lot of manga and manhwa, manga too. A lot of manga and manhwa can have a novelized version, a light novel version, and I do have the light novel versions for 3 of it, or the novel versions for 3 of them, or the written out novel for 3 of them. And then Danmei is a trope almost, where it's a tropey genre, a genre of Chinese literature and other fictional media that features homoerotic, so homosexual relationships between male characters. So it's boy love, and yeah, I wanted to throw that in here because that was a newer term for me. Like, I knew what it was, but it was a newer term for me. So to get into the series that I have specifically, I want to show you visually how they usually look on my shelves. Now, before I really get into that, I am a bookshelf decorator. You can sometimes see that in my thumbnails, not in this one, but you can sometimes see in my thumbnails that I'm a bookshelf decorator. I'm not going to show that when showing you the shelves. You can also sometimes see it when I've done this a few times. You can see I like took down organize a little bit to get the individual novels. So I'm going to show you the visual of what it usually looks like on my bookshelf. So this is just a basic look at what I have, like a visual. So I'm not going to be bringing this out, but I will mention it just because it's heavy. But here's the visual. I have it organized height and then alphabetical. I haven't really been able to do much organizing beyond the height. As you can see, like these ones, I should switch this around actually. These ones I was able to do alphabetically. Here, there we go, fixed it. And then A, S, and then this one's a little bit taller, and then this one's a little bit taller than that, and then this one just slightly taller than this. And then I have my omnibus versions, and then I have my graphic novels, like webtoon turned graphic novels. I have that series back there. I only have the first 2 volumes. And then down here on this shelf, I have these. I have ordered volume 8 of Heaven Official's Blessing. It's on the way. And by the time this video is up, I will have it. And then I'll start ordering more of this series once I finish this series, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And also kind of similarly with volume 8 of this, I have pre-ordered volume 2 of this. It's not out yet, not until like November-ish. But so as of right now, I do not have volume 2 of Under the Oak Tree. But again, once this video is out, I will have volume 2. So you've seen it, and that's how I usually have it. Like I was saying, I usually organize it by height and then alphabetical, because like I showed you, like these are all various sizes. Like these 2 are the same height, but this one isn't. And these ones kind of naturally ended up in alphabetical order. But if I had like a C here, like a C, like a manga that started with a C, if I had a manga whose title started with a C, it would go, that was this height, it would go right here. So it's like I organize it by height and then by alphabetical based on title, just to make it a little bit easier to find specific ones. So that's how I organize it. And I'm just, at this point, I'm just trying to grow out my manga, manhwa graphic novel collection. So yeah, and for me at least, it's really hard to read manga, graphic novels, webcomics, just because it's hard to read them online, just because it's like I get so distracted on my phone that it's like, ideally I like ebooks and I'm all for ebooks and e-reading. It's just, I can't do it for myself personally because I get distracted so easily, like I said. So to get into, I have like the 2 stacks here, and I'm only going to show the first volumes of these series. There is one where I show 2 volumes, but I'm only showing the first volume of these series just because it will get a little bit much, especially for like Yashahime, which I have 7 novels. Excuse me. Fruits Basket, I have like 5, but it's the omnibus edition. Inuyasha, I have 4, but again, the omnibus edition. Remarried Empress, I have 8. So I'm only going to show the first volume. And it just is what it is. So, first and foremost, I will discuss how many volumes I have for each once I get to that series. So, first and foremost, I have The Apothecary Diaries, and the story is by Natsu Hyuga, and then the art is by Neko Kurage, compiled by Itsuki Nano, and character design by Tueo Shino. And here you can see that. I love Mama and Jinchi so much. I love them so much. So I have the first 4 volumes of the manga. I believe there's also a manhwa, a webcomic, and then a manhwa, like a light novel manhwa, and also like a novel, like a novelization. So those are the editions for this one specifically. And again, I only have the first 4, and I do want to get like the novel versions, but as of right now, since I started with the graphic novel, that's what I'm going to go with until I get the full thing, or I get a majority of it before I start getting into other forms of the series. So I do really like this series though, and I do want multiple versions of it because I love the story, but I might not always want the manga version, you know? So there's that one. And then the second one I have is The Savior's Book Cafe Story in Another World. And I have only 1 volume for this one. This one was gifted to me. Actually, I realized I forgot to give description, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit to The Apothecary Diaries. In this, you're following Mama, who's kidnapped and taken to the Inner Palace to work as a servant girl. And then she ends up like climbing ladders because she's one of the only servant girl who knows how to read and write. So she ends up climbing the ladders that way, even though it's unintentional. So that's The Apothecary Diaries. I'm not going to say too much more. I have finished the anime, and oh my god, I need more of it as soon as possible. But going back to The Savior's Book Cafe Story in Another World, I only have the first volume of this one. I did really like it. I feel like I need to reread it. And in this one, you follow Tsukina, who is a single 30-something office worker whose favorite thing is curling up with a good book. When a god tells her that she must go to another world to become its magical savior, Tsukina isn't interested. She has zero desire to go on some grand hero's journey. So when she arrives in this strange new land, she decides to use her magical powers to create a cozy little book cafe instead. Her first customer is a handsome soldier who loves reading almost as much as she does. But when a fellow savior starts causing trouble, Tsukina might have to play the hero after all. So that's what this one is about. It's really cute, really cozy. It might be kind of cozy adventure fantasy. That's kind of the vibe that I was getting from it. So this one's really good. And again, I only have the first volume of that one. One moment, I'm gonna look something up. Okay, so I just looked something up real quick. So I had to double check. So the next one I have is Yashahime, and I have volumes 1 through 7. I believe there are 10 novels, 10 manga novels in total. And in this one, you're following like the next generation of Inuyasha. and you're following the kids basically, and you're basically following the daughters of Inuyasha and Sesshomaru, and it's the one daughter of Inuyasha and then two of Sesshomaru, and as they try to save their parents, themselves, and both realms from the 7 mystical rainbow pearls. Now with this one, I'd watched the anime. I wonder, like, the thing is from what I remember of reading the manga, I will have to reread it. From what I remember of reading the manga, like, there was a lot of differences between the manga and the anime. So it's like, I have to reread it. I have to kind of do what I want to do with Heaven Official's Blessing. I have to do that with this. And just, once I have all the volumes, like, do a massive read of them. Just because, like, I remember there being some differences, but I just want to read the full thing to see if it was, like, actually different or if it was, like, played off in a certain way. So, again, like, you're following the next generation. And not just, like, Inuyasha and Sesshomaru's daughters, but it's also Sangha Moroku's kids as well. So, that. The thing that I was looking up for Yashahime is that, like, I saw a comment saying it wasn't canon, and so let's see. So with this, like, I just had to look it up because it's like, was it canon? So according to, like, the Japanese context, it is canon. So it is considered an official sequel to Inuyasha and a part of the overall franchise. Whether it's canon depends on the differing definitions of the term, especially for Western fans versus Japanese creators. The original creator did not write the storyline, but she provided her overall approval and overall plot direction, which makes the series official canon in the Japanese sense. So arguments for it being canon are Rumiko Takahashi. She was involved in the creation of Yashahime, although she did not write the story. She was involved in the creation, and then also gave her approval and she provided her approval and overall plot ideas, which is a high level of approval for a Japanese work. And then the Japanese context of what is canon as a structural is a Western construct. And in Japan, I am reading a little bit verbatim here. In Japan, anything created with the original creator's approval is considered official and part of the franchise. So it is also created by Sunrise, which is the same studio that produced Inuyasha. So again, canon because it's original creators and original people, original pillars involved. And then spin-off continuation. So it's officially described, Yashahime is officially described as a spin-off continuation of the Inuyasha world, which means it's meant to be seen as a part of the universe and somewhat of a sequel. So, like, the way I kind of think of it with that is, like, think of it like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. A lot of what happens in The Hobbit acts as a precursor to The Lord of the Rings. Like, The Hobbit is not an official prequel to The Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is not like an official sequel to The Hobbit, but a lot of what happens in The Hobbit is like a build-up for Lord of the Rings. So it's kind of like the same with Inuyasha. There's a lot of like build-up that happens in Inuyasha that affects Yashahime. This is going based off of the anime. I've only read the first 4 volumes of the Yashahime, of the manga. This is going based off of the anime. There's a lot that impacts. There's a lot from the Inuyasha timeline. There's a lot that happens. There's a lot from that original anime, that original story, that impacts Yashahime, but it's not necessarily meant to be like a prequel. So, and like Yashahime isn't like strictly meant to be a sequel. So, like, looking at arguments against, so the original creator's direct involvement, some fans believe that it's canon, believe that something needs to be canon, some fans believe that for something to be canon requires the original creator to have directly written the story. So it's like, again, looking at like the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. So Christopher Tolkien did a lot of edits for The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, especially for the more recent publications of it and republications for it. So, like, that's a situation where it's like, is it considered a sequel? Is it considered canon if Tolkien didn't fully edit it himself? A lot of us would consider yes, so I feel like that applies here anyway. Storyline differences, unlike legacy sequels like Dragon Ball Super or Boruto, Yashahime's storyline is wholly original and was not directly adapted from the original manga creator's work. Again, I don't think that's a huge difference. Like, you wouldn't, like, with a sequel, I kind of make this argument with, like, Black Ballad, or I've made this argument in person with Black Ballad, where it's like, I wouldn't mind having, like, a sequel story that's about other characters for Black Ballad. That would just go on too long. Anyway, I digress. Fandom interpretation. For some fans, again, arguments against. For some fans, the definition of canon is subjective, and they choose not to consider Yashahime as canon due to creative differences or their personal enjoyment of the original story. I do see it as canon, just because, like, again, like, it doesn't have to be a continuation of the original story. It doesn't have to be derived from the original story for it to be canon, for it to be considered like a sequel. It has to be, like, within the world or somehow connected to the previous characters. To be, I mean, not even that. For something to be canon, it has to be connected to the world, within that world. And at the bare minimum, I do think that for something to be canon, the original creator does have to approve it and does have to say, like, yes, I'm not writing this. And then in a sense of, like, the Japanese one, it's like not that necessarily that they have to say it, but it's like, hey, I'm not writing this, but I've approved and I've given my input, given my opinions. So there has to be some, I do think there has to be some involvement of the original creator for something to be considered canon, which means, yes, Yashahime is canon. And at the end of the day, for something to be considered a sequel, it has to be like a direct continuation of the original storyline. So for Yashahime to be a strict sequel, it would have to mean, like, somehow Noraku or someone connected to Noraku, like one of his, what are they called? Incarnations. That took me a hot second. One of his incarnations, like, somehow they're back in the story, so it's like you have, like, a very similar plot of trying to defeat Noraku again. So I don't think Yashahime is a strict sequel, but it is canon to the Inuyasha world. So anyway, just thought I'd get that out of the way. The next one that I have, I'm going to mention, like, two here. I did mention it in the visual show around, is I have Magic Knight Rare Part 1, Books 1 through 3, and I also have the 25th Anniversary Edition, which was in the back there. I think I've shown it on this channel before, but Magic Knight Rare, I love the series so much. I do not like some of the things that the anime did. I love the anime, I just don't like some of the things that they did with it. Hopefully they correct that in the revamp. They're getting a revamp of the anime. Hopefully they correct some of those things, because I can't spoil. But there's one character that they get rid of in season 2. He's a season 2 character, and he was, like, my favorite. Like, I love this guy so much. Like, and they get rid of him, which was not canon to the manga, and I was so upset about that. So anyway, I have books 1 through 3 of Part 1. I'm trying to get Part 2 as well to have the full thing, but I have Part 1 for both this and the 25th Anniversary Edition, and I'm trying to get Part 2 for both this edition and then the 25th Anniversary Edition. These ones will be, like, my main reading ones, and the 25th Anniversary Editions will be the display ones. Okay, so this next part is where I'm going to show two. So I have Delicious in Dungeon. I have volumes 1 through 3 of Delicious in Dungeon, and then I have the World Guide. Did I give... Okay, I need to be better about giving descriptions. I'm going to backtrack again. Magic Knight Earth, you follow 3 girls, Hikaru, Umi, and Fu, and they're living in Tokyo, and they get, like, they're on a school trip to Tokyo Tower, and they get summoned by the Princess Emerald of Sephiroth, which is another world. They get summoned and taken to Sephiroth to help save Sephiroth. That's all I'm gonna say. It's very of its time. I think it came out like 2000s. The manga was like very late 1990s, early 2000s. Anime was 2000s. It's very of the time. So, and the animation was very of the time. But it's like that one will forever hold a very special place in my heart. So back to Delicious the Dungeon. Where are we? Okay. So I have volumes 1 through 3, and then I have the world guide, and I watched the anime first. I love the anime so much. I was laughing out loud, having so much fun with it. And in this, you're following a D&D group who are trying to get back down into the dungeon on very little supplies, trying to rescue a fallen comrade. And because they don't have many, if any, supplies and barely any money, they have to kind of make do with what they've got in the dungeon, especially for food. So that's this one. Okay, and then next up, speaking of Inuyasha, I have Inuyasha. I have the omnibus versions of volumes 1 through 4, and I think I was like starting to get them, and then something happened, because I remember having this at the very least like a few years ago, and then I don't know what happened to it. So again, I have volumes 1 through 4. I'm slowly collecting them back up. It's just, these are expensive. These are like 20, well, I can't say they're expensive now because I dropped like, oh boy, I'm not even gonna say it. I was like, the Heaven Official's blessings are like about $19, the same price as this, $19.99 and $20 each. So can't say it's expensive. It just feels expensive because it's manga, but it's not. So in this, you follow Kagome, who's taken back in time to feudal Japan. She was living in modern day Japan, and then she's taken back in time to feudal day Japan, and she has to restore the Shikon Jewel and also defeat Naraku. And then I'm gonna put that away in a second. And then next up, I have, this is actually the only manga that I've read. Wait, no, that's a lie. Magic Knight Wraith. There's 2. Yeah. Anyway, so the only other manga that I've read in its entirety, Fruits Baskets, and in this one you're following Toru Honda, and her mom passed away years ago, and then her dad passed away, and she moved in with her grandfather and one of the siblings, I think, and then it's, so the grandfather and then an aunt or uncle and then that family, and they're kind of entitled, and she doesn't want to impose on her grandfather, so she sets up a tent. And she finds out that she's living on Soma property, and then she finds out that the Soma family have a deep dark secret, and that 12 of them change into the 12 members of the Zodiac, well, 13. 13 of them change into the 12 members of the Zodiac, plus the cat. So that's this one. And again, for this one, I have volumes 1 through 5. Okay, this video is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but you know what, it is what it is, and we're rolling with it. So next up is The Perks of Being an S-Class Heroine. This was originally a webcomic, I'm not sure where, and I have the first 2 volumes of the published graphic novel, and I absolutely love this so much. I've talked about it before, but this had me like kicking my heels and wanting to kick my heels up and giggle and laugh and just, I love this so much. I feel like this is going to wreck me later once I get more volumes. But in this, you're following Aliette Rodeland, who's a certifiable child prodigy. Thanks to her secret weapon, she's a transmitigator. Having purchased an insurance package at the moment of her untimely end, Aliette has the perks of a top-tier support system and item shop to fall back on. And in a world of a notoriously brutal time loop novel, she's going to need all the help she can get. Because with the hero slated for an early end, Aliette might just have to become an S-Class heroine herself. So that's what this is about. I absolutely love it. I have the first 2 volumes and I can't wait to get more. It's just, my local Barnes & Noble usually only has the first 2 volumes of the physical, so it's like I have to try to get the 3rd volume when I can. So moving on. And I know I keep pausing this, it's just because I keep putting stuff back up onto my shelves. I usually stick them to the side on my bed, but I'm trying to make it a little bit easier on myself right now and just putting them back after I talk about them. The next one I have is The Remarried Empress. I have volumes 1 through 8. And I have, this is originally, I think it was on Webtoon, I want to say. I'm not quite sure. I absolutely love the series. Like, chef's kiss, perfect. And in this, you're following Navier and Chauvesu. And they had gotten married. They were thought to be a perfect fit, a perfect couple. And then one day, Chauvesu, I fucking hate his guts. And I hate, what's her name, Rashta? I hate her guts too. He meets Rashta and like apparently falls in love and starts having an affair. And then at one point he's like, hey, I want a divorce. And Navier is like, look, I'll grant you the divorce if I'm allowed to remarry a person of my choosing. So that's the premise of this. And you get, that's not a spoiler because 1, the title, 2, that happens like within the first couple of pages. So that's not a spoiler, guys. So next up is Villains Are Destined to Die. And I love this cover so much. I have volumes 1 through 2 of this. And in this one, like, I love this one too so much, but I do have to read the description for it rather than just spew it out now. So, playing Daughter of the Dukes, Super Love Project as the easy mode heroine, Yvonne makes charming the male characters a breeze. But once you switch to hard mode and step into the shoes of Penelope, the misunderstood villain, it's nearly impossible to even stay alive. So imagine the shock of suddenly waking up in Penelope's body. You know right away that your life is on the line. With love interests who will kill you if their affection meters drop too low, and the inability to speak without choosing from pre-selected dialogue, it quickly becomes clear that Penelope's chances have been rigged from the start, and the villain might just be destined to die. So it's like, I really like this series so far. Again, I've only read the first 2 volumes, and I only have the first 2 volumes, but it's like, especially my teen years, like, I basically grew up, like, my teenage years on dating sims, and like there was something I loved about them, and then also something that was so freaking frustrating about them, because it's like, especially like once it was like more, what's the word, not niche, but like if they were more like in high demand, I guess, it's like you had to like purchase gems to like be able to like purchase like special options to get you like the really happy ending. And it's like, when was it, like, when could it have just been like, I don't have to buy everything? So there was that. And also too, it's like, it got to a point where it's like a lot of the main female characters were basically like kind of like the same baseline, and then like she would keep falling back into like usual self-doubt, and I'm just like, I wanted to beat my phone over my head. It was like, stop it, we're past this point. It's like, they're kind of like the same with the male characters. Like, some of them, not all of them, but some of them were kind of fall back into like certain ways, and it's like, fucking stop it. So there's that. But like, this kind of gives me that joy of like acknowledging like, yeah, it was kind of shitty how you only got to select certain choices that would like determine it. And sometimes, like, I remember with one, it was like Be My Princess, where it's like, Be My Princess 2 was a little bit better, but with Be My Princess, it's like you could just end up with like a normal ending where you wouldn't end up with a prince, and it was like, what was the fucking point of having a normal ending? What was the point of that? Because you know they're supposed to get together in the end, so what was the point of having a normal ending where they don't get together? Have a normal ending where like they get engaged. Well, have a normal ending where they just start dating, where they don't get engaged. The whole point of Be My Princess is that she becomes a princess. So anyway, I just really like Be My Princess. But anyway, I really like this. And then next up is Under the Oak Tree by Suji Kim. And by the time this video is out, I do have both volumes, but right now I only have volume 1. And this one was a webcomic on Manta. And then it also has a graphic novel version, and then the novel version right now. And this one, you're following Maxie, who's the daughter of the powerful Duke Croiso, but she's rarely allowed outside because she has a really bad stutter, and her father's afraid she'll embarrass the family name. And then her father marries her off to a kind of up and coming knight, and the morning after, literally like the morning after their wedding night, he leaves to go to war, and 3 years later he comes back and she's surprised he wants her still, because there were like rumors he got offers of marriage from a powerful princess and a really beautiful princess. So there's that, and she is so sweet and she must be protected at all costs, and I love her so much. So next up is Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, Mo Dao Zhu Shi. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be so mispronouncing it, and I'm so sorry. This is by Mojiang Tongju, and honestly, I've only read the first volume. I need to reread it, but I've been focusing on Heaven Official's Blessing. But overall, I did really like this first volume. Once I read Heaven Official's Blessing, I will start getting more of this with my Manhwa. This is like the novelization, but this was also a Manhwa. With these, I am trying to, I think it was a Manhwa. Correct me down below if I'm wrong. So with these, like, again, I was trying to focus on Heaven Official's Blessing and reading that, and then I was going to move on to this one. But in this, you're following Wei Wujian, was once the most outstanding man of his generation, a talented and clever young cultivator who harnessed martial arts, knowledge, and spirituality into powerful abilities. But when the horrors of war led him to seek a new power through demonic cultivation, the world's respect for his skills turned to fear, and his eventual death was celebrated throughout the land. Years later, he awakens in the body of an aggrieved young man who sacrifices his soul so that Wei Wujian can exact revenge on his behalf. Though granted a second life, Wei Wujian is not free from his first, nor the mysteries that appear before him now. Yet this time he'll face it with all the righteous and esteemed. But this time he'll face it all with the righteous and esteemed Lan Wenji at his side, another powerful cultivator whose unwavering dedication and shared memories of their past will help shine a light on dark truths that surround them. So I do really like this first volume. I feel like I need to reread it and really be able to like get into the series. So, and again, it's by the same author who did this, so I'm gonna like it. So this is Heaven Official's Blessing. Again, at the time that this is up, I have all 8 volumes, and it's on the way. It's literally on the way as I'm recording this, but right now it's not on my shelf. So in this you're following Julien, who is renowned for his beauty, strength, and purity. His years of dedicated study and noble deeds and allowed him to ascend to godhood. But those who rise may also fall, and fall he does, cast down from the heavens and banished to the world below. 800 years after his mortal life, Julien has ascended to godhood for the 3rd time, angering most of the gods in the process. To repay his debts, he ascends into the mortal realm to hunt down violent ghosts and troublemaking spirits who prey on the living. Along his travels, he meets the fascinating and brilliant Salong, a young man with whom he feels an instant connection. Yet Salong is clearly more than he appears. What mysteries lie behind that carefree smile? Oh, I love that so much. I love this series. Like, I fell in love with this. Did I read this first? I don't remember. I think I saw it. I watched it first and then I picked up this. So, anyway. That is my collection, and if you have any that you think I should read or try out based on what I've liked and what I've shown in this, comment down below. I'd love to get more suggestions. And again, if I misspoke for any of these, let me know down below in the description. The comments. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.